Who Day, and I am just excited.
I'm excited to sit here. Y'all can't see all my Saints fans.
It shows with a Hall of Fame quarterback that he can get back to when he was a number 4 overall pick.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Commissioner Cooper, and it's time for TSS Fantasy.
Yeah.
You got to get the mute off so we can get the like really out there, Justin. I appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, but all right, it's never as good as Fred's. I'll admit that. It's never going to be as good as Fred's.
Your ass growing on me, though. It's starting to grow a little bit. All right. Well, this is Justin's favorite night tonight because we're going to go over the NFC West and some teams that aren't the 49ers. So I know Justin's excited. Got a lot to fill in tonight. So let's get the introduction started. Welcome to the studio. It's Joe. I'm not even going to try to do the joke because I'm just going to mess it all up. It's Joe. Welcome in, my friend. Appreciate you representing the Cardinals. How you doing, friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's Joe Camo. Yeah, it rhymes. That's the easy part. Yeah, thanks for having me. I always love talking Cardinals. You know, I've been a fan since they moved. We were talking before the show since they moved to Arizona because I am that old. So it's always good to talk to, also the fans in the division to kind of get some insight about how you guys feel about your teams as well. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I know Justin's super excited to talk about the Cardinals. And of course, I got to welcome in Ashton talking about those LA Rams. Welcome in, my friend.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Looking forward to talking about the team. Been a fan since 2016 whenever they moved to LA. Didn't know how good or bad they would be. And then we hired a very, very young coach named Sean McVay, and it has been a wild ride ever since. So just looking forward to talking ball and getting into the fantasy stuff too, because, I think we all play fantasy football and could use a little bit of tips from especially people who know their teams the best, which would be like the local fans and kind of like beat reporters and stuff like that.
100%. It's like he knows what we're doing, Justin. I can't even believe it. All right, let's welcome in, of course, Sean McVay's stepson, Justin Herrera. Welcome into the studio, sir.
Nah, you're complimenting me too much. That man looks too damn good for to be my father. But he looks like he fits in LA too, and he thinks like he fits in LA. Sean McVay is actually my favorite part of the Rams because I think he's a genius coach. But anyways, I have a question for Joe.
Yeah.
Since Joe's older than old. I'm just kidding.
It's true.
Was it ever the St. Louis Cardinals baseball and football team at the same time? Was that a thing?
Yeah, the Cardinals were in St. Louis, the football team, when the baseball team was there, and then they moved in 1988. So the two teams were there together. Yeah.
See, that's just good marketing right there. It's just year round on a poster board. Come see the St. Louis Cardinals play in 2025.
Right.
I love it. I still actually, it's funny because I always collect. I used to remember those little helmets that came out of the little quarter machine. And so I used to collect those, and I also collected pencils, and I still have my St. Louis Cardinals pencil somewhere. So isn't that ironic? Let's pay the bills real quick before we get started. Do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a quick solid. Give us a like, put a comment in, hit subscribe. Little things stopping you from doing it. Big things popping for us when you do. We always appreciate that. Also, if you're looking to get into daily fantasy, we got football this week. But when you're looking to get in some daily fantasy, don't forget, go to Fast Draft app, use our promo code TSS, and we'll double that $50 deposit. Ching! That's $100 to put down, so that's good stuff there. And if you're looking for championship bling for your fantasy champion, look no further than Pro-Am Belts. Okay, fellas, like we said, we got football coming up. We got to get things fired up tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the offseason. Before we start, though, Justin, I know the last show you had a question, that we started out with while I was on vacation. So would you like to ask it now before we get started on the first segment?
No, because I already know the answer to that question, so I don't want that kind of smoke tonight. But anyways, I'm gonna ask one question for each fan base on this one, just because I'm genuinely interested, and I don't care who wants to start. I'll actually just point it to Ashton because he hasn't talked in a minute. Ashton, being an LA Rams fan, are you ever worried that that even like gambling sites don't even give you guys the odds at home games? Like there's no such thing as a home field advantage, because every time people go to your stadium, they take it like a dream vacation, kind of like the Raiders do. You fill up the stadium with more fans of the other team than yours.
I mean, I think as overall, personally, I don't care because I've been to a lot of those home games. I have to fly all the way across the country, so I still find it fun. To answer your question overall, I don't think it really matters for this team. I don't think it has really impacted the team win-loss wise in a long time, ever since McVay has taken over. I feel like the issues we've had have been a whole host of other things that we'll probably go into later. But overall, like, you have to grow fan base. The team just moved back a few years ago, and it's going to take time. And LA is a sports town, but there's so many things going on, and you're vying for so much attention. So you got to do good to get attention in LA. And I feel like the Rams have put together a pretty impressive track record in the last 5-6 years under McVay for the most part to get that attention. It's just going to take time. And
I should have known.
really
Go
going
ahead,
to
my bad.
impact the team. No, you're
No, I love it. That was a very professional answer. And Ashton, you're absolutely right. It's so hard to market a team when your entire city has two teams for each freaking sport. Anaheim Ducks, LA Kings, LA Clippers, LA Lakers, Dodgers, Angels, Chargers, Rams. Who do we root for? Just give us one. But Joe,
and the Raiders wanted to go back too. They wanted.
That would have been the best answer, because the LA Raider fans are actually in existence. I didn't believe LA Rams fans existed. No offense, Ashton. You go all the way from the East Coast, you're a fan. I believe that. But I didn't believe LA Rams fans existed. LA Raiders fans definitely exist. Though that's a different breed of fan right there.
I should have known better than to have Justin start the NFC West and have to ask the question, because, you know, he's got to throw shade and all that. Joe, I'm going to ask it to you since he's not brave enough to do it.
No. I got one for Joe. I got a funny one.
No, I know, but I don't, but we don't need that. We want what you asked last week. Joe, in the NFC West, who do you consider the Cardinals' biggest rival?
The biggest rival in the NFC West. Oh, that's a really good question. It's tough because, like, you know, they moved to that division a while back, right? So they were in, you know, kind of a different division before, and there isn't really this strong kind of rivalry that feels like it's formed like there is between in other divisions. So, you know, for me, it's probably the 49ers. I think that's the one that the fan base probably has most ire towards. And that, you know, that's been a tough matchup. You know, I think, so that's probably the one, although they're on sort of a little bit of a down stretch right now. So, you know, they might not be, I mean, and not throwing shade, but a lot of people are picking your team to pick fourth or finish fourth, Justin. So, you know, we'll see, right?
We're either number one or we're number four, but at least we're not the Cardinals where it's always mediocre.
Ashton, how about you, my friend? Who's the biggest rival to the Rams in the NFC West?
It's definitely 49ers. I feel like that's the strongest rivalry in the NFC West. And it's been like traditionally long stretches of being on one side or the other. And I feel like the Rams are starting to get on the better side of that, at least in the next few years. But we'll see.
You guys definitely draft better. That's for sure. But Kamish, before we get on to it, I do want to say I love this rivalry because this is actually on paper. These two play each other so well during the season. Like the Cardinals and the Rams, as far as the 49ers go, is usually like it's usually like one-sided. Like either the Rams will take 2, 49ers will take 2, but the Cardinals and the Rams seem to always split it. No matter how good or bad one team is that year, they always seem to split it. It's always good games, and it's always games that I tune into. I mean, I remember last year, it kick-started the season. It was the Cardinals. I think they thrashed the Rams, and everybody was like on Kyler, like, oh shit, this is Kyler's awakening. And then the Rams came back and kicked the Cardinals' butt on their way to the playoffs. So every year, this is one of my favorite rivalries. And if you're asking me who I consider more of a rival, it's definitely the Rams. Because unfortunately, the Cardinals are like everybody's little stepbrother that's like the redheaded stepson. Because it just, I'm sorry, Joe. I love you.
No, listen, I've been a fan for long enough, so you're not hurting my feelings. They got to prove it, right? And they've had their ownership has kind of hindered them for a long time. We'll get into this, but I feel really good about the direction with the new general manager. But they haven't, I'm a real fan. I love my team, but they haven't earned the right to be anyone's number one rival. And this is coming from someone who loves the Cardinals.
Let's be honest too, Joe. Ownership means a lot. The Rams saw this whenever we had I forget her name. She was terrible for the team. And like some owners just are okay with mediocrity. And they'll
let me say the money matters a lot. The Kroenke family, there's the whole cash over cap thing that matters a lot. And that really helps a lot. With the Cardinals, and it's tough because I don't think owners don't care about winning. Some of them just don't have the cash to pull off the cash over cap thing. Like the Broncos, they have Walmart money now. The Rams have the Kroenke money. But the thing I'm critical most of the Cardinals ownership, because the Bidwells have owned the team forever. So that's their money source. They're, as ownership groups go, they're not the wealthiest. And I'm not going to fault them for that. But Michael Bidwell interpersonally, there have been issues with how he treats people and his decision making, and that's the thing he can control. It's free to be a good person, and that's the bigger issue, right?
Yeah, and they do show up a lot on like the reports sometimes on the bad end for like facilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's the money thing where it's like it's tough because some teams just have more money to spend on that stuff, and their ownership group just is never going to outspend anyone, but they could be better humans. And that's the big concern for me.
Joe, you are speaking to my heart as a longtime fan, of America's team, the Miami Dolphins. You can trust. I know exactly how you feel going into every season. Even this year, I'm like, womp, womp, womp. All right. Well, since we're down here in Florida, I'm down here in Florida anyway.
He's been womping since Marino.
Yeah, exactly. Even then, I was feeling a little wompy. Sit back, relax, gentlemen. It's time to click the summer rewind. All right, lots happened during this offseason. We're going to start first with Joe. We'll start with our free agency regarding the Cardinals. Give me a grade on how you felt they did and just kind of talk about some of the guys you like that came in or even some of the guys that you were upset that left.
Yeah, so in free agency, I have to kind of preface this with I have a certain philosophy towards free agency that's not my own, but that I subscribe to in terms of how you approach that. And it's you don't go chasing premium positions in free agency for big dollars typically because you're going to get a B player and pay A money at those really expensive positions. You look for guys to patch holes, and then once in a while you'll spend a little bit. But I really like what they did. They spent a little bit with Josh Sweat, but that was the biggest need. Pass rush was number one need for this team. So they spent a little bit there. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson to help solidify the interior defensive line, which was an area of weakness. They brought in Calais Campbell, which when we get to the draft, I'll talk about why I think that's particularly relevant. Maybe the oldest player in the NFL, one of the oldest players who's not a kicker, but still plays at a high level, but he's going to bring more than just what he does on the field to the team. So they did some nice things in free agency. So like I'll give it a B+ because, some people might, have wanted them to maybe get an interior offensive lineman or do a little more there. But when I take it into the totality of what they're doing to rebuild this roster and the things they're doing that I think are very smart and are keeping with what people in the analytics community say you should do for building a roster, I think Monty Ossenfort is kind of going textbook how you're supposed to rebuild. And the way he approached free agency, I think, was just right in keeping with that.
I'll just say two things real quick. One, Calais Campbell still got it. And I don't know if it's testament to how bad our defense was without him, but even when he was in there, this man made play after play after play. And like I said, it might be just a testament how bad the rest of the Dolphins team is. But he really stuck out and always was making big plays when they matter. So that's a big signing for you guys. And I also like that you extended Trey McBride for 4 years. He's obviously proven to be one of the elite. So I think that was very smart of the Cardinals. Ashton, let's go to you on the Rams and talk about their free agency. Give me a grade. Talk about some of those guys you like that came in, or maybe some guys you miss.
Yeah, I would say we didn't really have a lot of numbers wise, and typically we're not a big free agency team. We've had a few splash signings here and there in the last few years, but most time it's during the season or trades during the season. For this year, I would say a B plus. I feel like losing Cooper Kupp, replacing him with Devontae Adams. We signed Nate Landman. I feel like that's a decent upgrade for our linebacking core was Lord awful. But Devontae Adams, I think, is big, mainly because I was one of the few fans by like week 3, 4, 5. I wanted Kupp traded. I wanted him traded very early because I didn't think he had it anymore. He was actively hurting the team, in my opinion. I just felt like our rookie was just doing better with the snaps that he had. So it's one of those things where I feel like Devontae Adams still, like when you watch, he's like he has no one in the Raiders throwing to him, and he's like getting killed every week. And it's just one of those things. I feel like he'll be a big upgrade from what we had in the last 2 years in Cup. And we got fortunate / lucky. We got Puka because Puka is a dog, and I really do believe those two together. And we'll get into it a little bit more with fantasy stuff. Our red zone in the last 2 years has been atrocious. It's in bottom 10 of the league. We aren't scoring touchdowns. We can move the ball very effectively, but when we get in the red zone, we struggle. And I feel like Adams and a few other pickups will really make the difference there.
Yeah, I think Devonta Adams is a really big signing with the absence of Cooper Kupp. I agree with you though. Watching, when I don't go down the home games, I got all the games on, and I think I had Cooper Kupp in one of my leagues at some point last season, and I just kept watching, thinking that maybe he was gonna spark back at some point, but it never really seemed to happen. So we'll see. We'll see if he can resurge in Seattle, but I think Devonta Adams is a really good missing piece for you guys. And it'll be interesting to see what Matt Stafford does this year with him. All right, let's get on to the draft. All right, Joe, what do you think? Give me a grade of your draft and talk about some of those guys that you like that were brought in.
I'm going to give the draft a B plus, similar to free agency. I loved what they did on day 1 and 2. Day 3 was a little more confusing to me. I liked some of the players, but let's start with day 1. Walter Nolan, right? When I was looking at comments on videos and things in my own kind of mock draft Monday live streams that we do on my YouTube channel, everything I've looked at, Walter Nolan was the most common player that Cardinals fans coveted. Interior defensive line is a big need, as was pass rush. We had addressed pass rush some in free agency with Josh Sweat, so that made interior defensive line continue to be, maybe one of the bigger spots, and obviously you get some pass rush there. And Walter Nolan, he was a little bit polarizing for some fans because I think saying off the field stuff is not fair to him. There's just some maturity stuff. There's a difference between maturity and off the field issues. And he, I've seen interviews with him, and he communicates like a guy who's maybe a little young and immature, but there haven't been any, issues that are beyond that. So some Cardinals fans have compared him to Robert Kimdiche, right? This guy who had kind of a weird personality and didn't work out. So fans that didn't like the pick were calling, kind of making that comparison. But there's another player who you might remember, Justin, because he spent a cup of coffee with your team. Darnell Dockett was another interior defensive lineman who had a quirky personality, right? Just a little bit off center, but was a great player. So fans who like him compare him to that. But, when you have interior defensive linemen that can stop the run, they usually go on day 2. If they can just rush the pass, they probably go in the second round. But if they can do both, they go in the first round. And he can do both. He graded really well against the run, and he can rush the passer. So I love that pick. And then bringing it back to Calais Campbell, whatever maturity issues there might be, you've got Campbell and Dalton Tomlinson, right? 2 grown-ass men who are mature and good leaders in that room with him to teach him how to be a professional, right? And I'm not the first person to talk about that. A lot of people have made that point, right? So it's not original to me. But that's just such a great combination and such a great plan. So I love that pick. On day 2, you got Will Johnson, who talent-wise is a first-round pick, top half of the first-round pick, talent-wise. There's the injury concerns that are more like, is he going to get a second contract, the durability with the injuries that he's recovered from. But, that guy is – a lot of people thought he was the best cornerback or the second best cornerback in this draft. So to get him in the second round, I'll take that risk, right, for that upside. Jordan Birch, they got another edge rusher in the third round, kind of a big edge. There were other guys that I liked better in the draft, but I'm going to trust coaches know what they want for their scheme. So adding some edge rusher there, great. On day 3, for me, it was a little, maybe a little uncertain. Like Cody Simon, they needed some inside linebacker help, still do. So I don't hate that pick. He's more of a early down guy, kind of liability coverage. So we'll see if he can develop there. Denzel Burke, cornerback who fits the scheme, but like they have so many cornerbacks they've drafted in the last couple of years. And so it's not like they have an established cornerback tandem that you can rely on. So there's still room, but like with all the guys they've drafted in the last couple of years, there's guys that are 3rd and 4th round picks who might not make this team in the last couple of years. So that was to me a little head scratcher just because of the numbers, but we'll see. They got Hayden Conner, the offensive guard out of Texas. There were other interior offensive linemen I like better, but Monty Ossenfort comes from New England, where they know how to draft interior offensive linemen. They find them. So I'm going to trust them on that. And the Katon Crawford's kind of more of a special teams guy. I'm not going to go too in depth on him, but he was transferred to Nevada. Like him for what he's going to be, a special teams demon. So it makes sense. All the picks make sense. So I like overall what they did with the draft.
Yeah, it's very apparent just looking at their selections. They wanted to go very young defensively. I mean, you mentioned Hayden Conner was the only offensive person that was selected out of the draft. So they wanted to get youth in the defense, and they certainly got it. I wanted to point out one thing that you mentioned about Walter Nolan when you were talking about the maturity and the difference between off the field. And I'm only bringing this up. I keep talking about the Dolphins because they hate the Dolphins show. And I'll never forget when Randy Moss came out and everybody was whining and crying about his attitude and this and that, and Jimmy Johnson comes in and could have given Dan Marino freaking Randy Moss, but instead we drafted John Avery, who I don't know, he works at UPS. I have no idea, but there you go. Anyway, but there is a big difference. The point is there is a big difference between the off the field issues and maturity. No doubt about it. That was a great point. All right, Ashton, let's go to you, my friend. Give me a grade for those Rams and talk about some of the guys you like.
Yeah, a small draft in comparison to some of the other classes we have had in the last few years. We've had like 10, 11, 12 people, quality classes in the last 2-3 years. But this one, we only had 7 picks. We moved all up and down the board. But I would say I would give them an A-. I felt like they really went, for the most part, filling in holes on this roster, a roster that really gave the Eagles a run for their money. The only time in the playoffs that the Eagles looked like they could have lost. So I think Terrence Ferguson, this is a guy that they reportedly wanted to draft in the first round, and they were going to pick him in the first round until they got an offer by the Falcons for a first next year. And they were blown away that he survived all the way down 46. Now, that's not the tight end I wanted. I really liked Arroyo, and he went to the Seahawks. But I think everything I've heard from camp is Ferguson will be a really, really good addition to this offense. Now, let me put a disclaimer there, fantasy-wise. Guys, it takes a lot for McVay to trust a rookie. He very rarely puts them in until they're ready, and he does not care their pick status. He doesn't care their mentality or whatever. If they're not ready, they're not going to see the field. And you can kind of tell whether or not he has a lot of belief if they play in the preseason or not most of the time. That's kind of like disclaimer there. If you want to kind of like hack, at least for McVay's Rams, if they play in the preseason, they're on the roster bubble 9 times out of 10. Few exceptions there, but that's relatively that role there. And then Josiah Stewart, we took him in the 3rd round. I really love this pick. He's kind of undervalued in draft, especially by draft community. He was undersized. I thought he played very well for Michigan. We definitely needed a bigger body edge. I feel like we already have a top 5 D-line, and I think we have potential for the number 1 D-line in the NFL, just with how they ended the postseason. They're only going to get better, and I feel like Josiah Stewart kind of adds gasoline to that fire, the burn. They get another running back, Jarquez Hunter. He'll be fighting for the 2nd slot with Corum. He's supposed to be kind of like a different change of pace back from those two. I have my own takes on Kyron personally, but that's an entire hornet's nest for the fan base. He's one of those players that kind of splits us 50-50. Ty Hamilton, another really good Ohio State defensive tackle. I think the Rams really struggled, especially early on last season, stopped the run, and he was kind of drafted along with picking up Puna Ford. That was someone I forgot to mention. Puna Ford is a really key signing for stopping the run. We literally only lost that Eagles game, I think, because of Saquon breaking those 2 big runs. You stop those, we win that game pretty easily, in my opinion. And that's something that this D-line and rejuvenated linebacker core will definitely help out with on this Rams defense. And then they go and get a linebacker. And this is high for the Rams getting a linebacker. They do not care about the position, unlike your 49ers, Justin. They could cut their linebackers and pick up a random person on the street. And that's kind of how they treat it. They do not evaluate. We traded away our like best linebacker in the last 6-7 years for peanuts to the Seahawks. So, and then we go and we get Konata Muntfield Jr. Out of Pitt. Supposed to be really good gadget guy. We'll see if he can grow. 7th round picks are kind of like a dart throw for the most part. So
good stuff. And I apologize, I was a little distracted while you were talking because we got this comment in, and I had to search everywhere for validity. But I'll just say right now, Philly Mike, you are full of shit. I looked everywhere. There is nothing about this at all anywhere.
I've been looking too.
I was looking everywhere, like, oh, and I went to their Twitter. I went everywhere. No, Matt Stafford's not out for the season. I mean, this guy, Mike, I appreciate your comment, boy. This guy went all in too. He's like, this changes everything. They just posted on Rams Twitter. It's like, it looks so real. I was like, oh my God, is this actually happening right now? But no, that's not true.
It's fine. You know, he was stressing at the end of our game, and he thought he was going to lose. And they got lucky. Our rookie center gave up 2 pressures back. That's basically why we lost the game. So
I think he heard your comment about that Eagles game, and he was like, oh, hell no, I got to put something in there. All right. Well, thank you guys for that. We've hit the summer rewind. We're about to go into our next segment. But before we do, we have an injury expert on our show. Speaking of injuries, we like to do something in the summer, a little fun thing that we like to call the percent to the bench. So let's check out the percent to the bench for those Arizona Cardinals. Let's check it out.
The Percent to Bench from the Injured List podcast. Brought to you by Fast Draft Fantasy and NeuroGuard Plus mouthguards.
Hey, what's up, Commish? We are here with the Arizona Cardinals, and we're kicking it off with quarterback Kyler Murray. 3 years now removed, if you can believe it, from that ACL reconstruction. No games missed last year. He looked more like a dual threat quarterback than we've seen in years past last year, and I expect things to continue to ramp up for him. He's fully recovered. He intends to run more in 2025. We're giving him a 10% score to the bench. Hopefully his line can keep him safe. At the running back spot, we got James Conner. Last season, he had late knee and rib issues. He did miss week 17 because of the knee. He was placed on IR for that. Nothing serious, though. He's recovered. Apparently no new issues in camp. He does provide some moderate depth at the running back position. We're giving him a 20% score to the bench. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. He apparently came into camp looking all jacked and buff. Sounds like he underwent a very good offseason strength training program. He did miss a game last year because of a concussion in week 7, but he's a high upside wide receiver 2-3 with possible wide receiver 1 trajectory written all over him, especially now that he's healthy, giving him a 5% score to the bench. That's your Arizona Cardinals. Back to you, Commish.
Go check out Bry from the Injured List podcast. He's checking us out tonight. He saw in the comment too. If you want accurate injury news and updates, there's only one place to go: the Injured List. There you go. So check out Bry. He got some great stuff on there. All right, yeah, that was he got me going there, Mike. I was really looking around the internet for that one. I was like, oh my god, this got some breaking news on TSS right now. All right, guys. Well, we talked about what was. Let's talk about what is, and let's do some season predictions.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
And serious shit indeed. Let's get things started. Ashton, we'll start with you this time. We're gonna go over first. I'm just gonna ask up front. Give me a prediction for the Rams record this season. If you see them in the playoffs, how far do they go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I feel like this is the most optimistic I've been about the team since 21, since getting Stafford. I feel like as long as our O-line can stay healthy, which they have struggled to stay healthy in the last 2 years, but if they can stay healthy and Stafford can stay relatively healthy himself and he's dealing with some soreness and stuff like that, if they stay healthy, which you can say that for any team, I really think they're going to be a really good team. They're going to be better than they were last year. I feel like this offense is going to be a top 15, if not top 10 offense. I feel like they're going to be more dynamic passing, more dynamic rushing. I feel like they're going to try to lean more on a running back by committee. So I think they're going to be around 13-4. I think this is going to be the best Sean McVay team you've seen basically since 21. How far they go, it kind of depends how everyone else kind of lays out, because certain teams match up against us better than others. I think the Eagles are a really bad team for us to match up against, but I feel like we would do better against others. So you'll just kind of see how it goes that way. I feel like this could be a team that wins a Super Bowl. I really do. And I don't say that every year. I feel like this defense, I already said earlier, I think that D-line is going to be one of the best in the NFL. And if you don't have a solid O-line, you're going to be struggling. They put up the second most sacks in a playoff postseason in only 2 games. They were 2 sacks away from breaking the postseason sack record in only 2 games. And that's against the Eagles O-line and the Vikings O-line. Vikings O-line being a little bit more battered, but both solid units. And I feel like that D-line is only getting better and is going to be hungry. And they remember that Eagles game, and they're going to want more this year. And you add Devontae Adams to that offense, you add a good tight end in Terrence Ferguson. I don't see how they're worse, and I definitely can see how they're better. And we'll see how they perform. I think they're going to just wreck the Texans. That O-line has been kind of stripped apart a little bit. Stroud's going to be running for his life. So we'll see. Take it 1 week at a time, and I think they'll definitely do good.
Got Super Bowl aspirations. I will say Last year, I was most impressed with the Rams playing well down the stretch when it mattered, and that's what's always important in any sport, quite frankly. All right, Joe, how about you, my friend? Give me a prediction for those Cardinals this year.
So I want to just start by saying I know there are people who are going to hear what I say who don't pay close attention to the Cardinals, who just have in their mind same old Cardinals, who are going to just roll their eyes. I've been watching football for a long time. I pay close attention to how roster building works. And this team has been on a rebuild. And the rebuild formula is year one, lots of turnover. You're frisky, but you're not winning a lot of games. Year two is you make progress. You make a push for the playoffs, but you probably barely miss it. In year three, you make the playoffs. That's what the Lions did. And a lot of people before they did that would say same old Lions. Cardinals have a new general manager who has taken the right approach, and they have followed that formula. Year one, 4 wins. A lot of people are saying best 4-win team they've seen, right? They were frisky, they were competitive, but struggled. Last year, 8 wins, made an early push, looked like a playoff team, failed. Textbook year 2. They did that with like a horrendous pass rush, right? They did not have, Brett Coleman was talking about your Batmans, your Robins, and your Alfreds, right? In terms of pass rushers, they had a bunch of Alfreds, no Batmans or Robins. BJ Ojulari was supposed to be the best pass rusher, got injured, right? And the interior defensive line was not good. Their cornerbacks, Garrett Williams is actually a stud in the making if you don't know him, but their outside cornerbacks struggled. But some of that is also because of the synergy between pass rush and cornerbacks, right? If you don't have one of those units good, the other one struggles. They fixed the pass rush. Josh Sweat, right? They brought in some guys they drafted. They fixed that interior defensive line with the guys we talked about earlier. They've been building that cornerback room, right, with some young guys that are making progress. They've still got a great tandem of safeties, right? And the offense is kind of the same guys before from last year, but with another year under the belt, Marvin Harrison Jr. So this team, if you look at it, even objectively, just with how roster building works, the plan is going the way it's supposed to. And they've been hitting all the points, all the things you're supposed to do. They address their biggest need. So like, I think they're going to, I want to say 11 wins, but I'm going to say 10 to be a little bit more cautious, right? And I think they're going to be a wild card and maybe even have a chance to push for the division, but I'm going to say wild card maybe to be a little bit safe. But I think this team is going to have a much better defense, and they won 8 games with no pass rush last year, right? Without it, they schemed up their pass rush, right? Without pass rushers, I should say. So they've made improvements where you need to. They've followed the textbook rebuild process. And everything's right there for them to get to that third stage, right? Where you are a playoff team. If they don't make it, it'll be a disappointment, right? Now, obviously injuries can beset that, but they also brought in one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL, Jacoby Brissett, right? We didn't have someone like that before. So Kyler misses a few games. Brissett can drive that bus. So, I feel optimistic because of what I've seen in terms of how the general manager is approaching this. They're building it the right way through the draft. They've got some nice pieces. He's drafted well. We talked about the free agency. So I think we're going to see 10-7 and pushing for, making a wild card spot.
All righty. I like it. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question, Joe, for you, like, what would you attribute to, like, at least historically in the last 6 years, your guys', especially with Murray under center, your guys' struggles in the second half of the season versus the first half? Like, I've always attributed that to him being unable to adjust to scheme changes that the coaching staff put on him. Like, what's your take on that? And why do you think he struggles the second half typically in the season?
So I think a lot of that, there's also a strong argument that with Cliff Kingsbury, his offense, the way that offense was structured doesn't have receivers moving around, and like it relies a lot on the receivers to kind of make plays. And I've heard interviews with people talk about the Kingsbury offense was such where like you kind of figure it out as the season goes on. I also think, you could make an argument that, you look at, for example, they started out really strong, but they overperformed their defensive talent, right? So that, that's, I think, part of it as well. I've been a Kyler apologist. He does, have to, and I don't want to put it all on him. I think quarterback's the most important position in professional football, but it is also a team game. So, we need, they need to not do that this year. Right. And we need to see that they can pull it off. But last year, again, I think they overperformed early when you look at the deficiencies they had in pass rush and on the defensive side overall. So I think it was more of a team kind of falling apart. And then, Marvin Harrison had a decent rookie season, a good rookie season actually, but not what people had expected. So there's also there's some question marks about their current offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing. He's probably the one guy on the staff that the fans aren't as big on. His running schemes and running plays are really creative, but the passing stuff, people didn't love the things he was doing in terms of the passing game. So I know that sounds like I'm making a lot of excuses, and maybe I am. I think Kyler's been unfairly criticized. I think he's got great arm talent, great leg talent. He's had to mature some, but everything you're hearing out of the room is that he's committed to what they're asking of him. So, but we'll see, right, Ashton? I'm saying this is the year that they're supposed to make the playoffs. And if they falter at the end of the year, you have to look at that question again much more closely.
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Appreciate
he busts
that.
my balls all the time about being on mute, and then he goes on a whole long monologue.
True. I know. I got my sheet up, so I'm not even looking. I'm like, who's he saying it's on mute? Oh, I am. I was just saying that Ashton knows how to segue, because that's what. Let's just talk about Kyler Murray since we're already talking about him. Last season finished as the 10th overall fantasy QB. This season, right now, the current ADP has him at number 9. So what do you think, Joe? Do you think he does a tad bit better than last season, or do you think he does worse, or is he up in the top 5? What do you think?
I do think he's going to do better. I think he's, your injury report, Brian talked about it. He's in fact, Josh Weinfuss just posted something on ESPN, like a brief article about an interview with him, and where Kyler says he feels like his knee's back to as close as it's going to be before injury. And it's another year in the system. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr. in year 2, bulked up like you talked about, going to probably be more effective coming off press. So I think you've got another year. The totality of the offense is going to be that much better. But I do want to kind of give just kind of a caveat or something to think about. They have been building this as a run-first offense. Now, maybe that was to protect the deficiencies on defense. Maybe they wanted to grind out games and keep the defense off the field, and maybe they're going to let loose on the passing game. But I'm not convinced that that's what it is. I think they want to be a run-first offense. And people have kind of come down on Kyler about, not throwing for tons of yards and touchdowns. And one of the things I've said in the past is, like, he's not going to be the guy who throws for 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns in his best year, because that's not the way they play with him. Like if Kyler were to have an MVP season, it would be like 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, like 900 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. And he's driving defenses crazy, but it's within a system that's a run-first system. He's not a guy, watch him prove me wrong this year, which I would love if he throws for 40 touchdowns, but that's not the guy he is. And I think people unfairly criticize him because that's what they think a quarterback's supposed to be. But you can have a guy who plays kind of that much more running style, and just within an offense and running offense, it can be absolutely devastating if you do it right. So from a fantasy perspective, his upside is all about the running. He's going to, he can put up some decent passing numbers, but if he gets to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, it is going to be because he's hitting some additional touchdowns on the running game, and they're running him more. Do I think he can get there? Yes. Do I think he will? I think he'll be between 5 and 10, maybe closer to 5 if he's healthy, right? Because of the rushing. But I don't know that he's going to be your top 5 quarterback fantasy wise.
Justin, what are your thoughts on your favorite QB?
I've always liked Kyler. I think that, like Joe says, they kind of don't utilize him properly. For a run-first team, he is actually not the greatest at play action. which is something, you would think you'd want a great quarterback to do if he's in a scheme that's dedicated to being a run-first offense. But, for me, I look at it as last year was kind of a deficiency more on Marvin Harrison. Like, they just did not know what they had with him, and they tried too often than not to stretch the field with him when they could have just used him as a regular base X, gain 10 yards, and just let him work. I'll talk more on Marvin Harrison, where I think maybe he needs to develop himself a little bit more when we get to him. But I think that this whole offense doesn't, like Joe said, doesn't really know what to do with itself when it has the ball in Kyler's hand and he's throwing it. They know exactly what to do when James Conner has it and he's tucked it. He's been the greatest addition to this team, but they still just do not know how to use Kyler's legs to his benefit. Like, this is a dude who is a pretty accurate guy who can get out to the outside pretty easily. So let's run a lot more play action and let's get him outside and let's get Marvin Harrison coming back on routes rather than running downfield where Kyler hasn't proven to have the greatest accuracy. I mean, he only completed 39% of his passes last year downfield, which, I mean, I couldn't do that, but that's still, I'm not even in the top 10 of quarterbacks, and you're having your main guy run downfield more often than not. So for me, I look at that and I go, hey, maybe we need to condense this offense passing-wise into something that's better for him. But
Just,
to answer your question, I think that, sorry, Joe, just real quick, to answer your question, I think he's definitely going to be a top 10 quarterback. I think he's probably priced out exactly where he's going to land. And if he does run more, like Joe was saying, I also read it too, that he plans to run more now that his knee's better. I think he's definitely got that potential to be a top 10 quarterback.
And I just want to kind of add on to what you're saying, Justin. Now, Kyler's, like, when you look at stats like accuracy downfield, he's had years where he was really good and years where he was bad. And I think it's more about what the offense is doing with him and, and what the receivers are doing when it comes to whether he's, because I think if you look at him, he's got a really good arm. I think people actually underrate how good his arm talent is and how accurate it can be. But Drew Petzing came from Cleveland, right? Their offensive coordinator. And when they brought him in, the thing I was hoping they would do is what they did with Baker Mayfield that year. He had a really outstanding year. And what they did a lot of run heavy, but they also did like a lot of bootlegs. And with Kyler, one of the things people talk about is his height, vision in the middle of the field, right? And getting him out into space with bootlegs takes advantage of his speed, and it gets him a clearer path to see. So if there are concerns with, the height thing, you get him in a bootleg, that clears that up, right? He's just got the whole field to work with, or even if they just focus on half the field. So I'd love to see, like you're talking about, Justin, do some things with him that capitalize on what he has, and take advantage of that. What is a really unique skill set. In fact, from a skill set perspective, there are a few quarterbacks who run about as well as Kyler, and there's a handful that throw as well, but I don't think there's anyone who has the running and arm talent he has, pure talent-wise, in one person. I think he's got a little bit better arm than Lamar, but Lamar puts it together, right? And so he's an MVP, and rightly so. Mahomes has the better arm, is a good runner, but isn't at the level of Kyler, right? If they could find a way to take advantage of what is a one-of-one combination, it could be dangerous.
From a fantasy perspective, what I think is cool about Kyler Murray is he's not that guy that's jumping off the page for a lot of people who are drafting. So he's one of those guys that you could build a nice little squad around, then bring in Kyler Murray that, as both of you so eloquently put, could have some big potential, could be a league winner for you the way that you build your roster up. So just something to throw out there. All right, Ashton, let's go to you on Matty Stafford. Last season finished 18th. Currently, they got him ranked 21st as his current ADP. Do you think he exceeds that this season?
Yeah, I do. But, Matt Stafford, you want to talk about mobile QB? Yeah, definitely Matt Stafford's your guy. The second oldest starting QB. He'll give Kyler a run for his money in those rushing TDs. No, but I would agree with Joe Mosley and Murray. Just touch on that real quickly. outside of Jane Daniels. I think Jane Daniels also gives you that perfect combination of throwing and rushing fantasy wise. Going back to Stafford, you can only get so much lemon out of that QB throwing only QB juice. I feel like you have to have a top 5 offense for it to be kind of viable outside of Superflex. So it's kind of up to your question, how much faith do you have in the Rams offense if you're picking them up for Superflex? I do think he's going to be a viable option Superflex wise. If you're talking about top 10 or top 15, it's going to have to be a really good year, and Adams and Puka both are going to stay healthy. And if they do, I feel like Stafford can kind of ride them and the additional red zone weapons into being a very viable option, at least on the bottom end of QB1s. Probably mid QB2 is what you're looking at. Kind of like he's most likely in most leagues going to be a streamer option for you. Like you have someone out, you don't have any other good options. You have Justin Fields and he's hurt, or Jets are doing the Jets thing. You can pick up Stafford, start him for a week, and he'll probably get you 15 points is kind of what you're looking at for Stafford.
Just to
Ashton knows how to treat the host. That's all I just want to say. Go ahead.
You just want to say, I think like Matt Stafford is the epitome of better real life quarterback than fantasy quarterback, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like great real life quarterback. You can win Super Bowls with them. They have, but he's that guy who, he's almost all arm. And he might end up being a top 5 fantasy quarterback if he has an up year, but it's just hard to predict that with those guys who are pass first guys, right? But great real life quarterback.
Right. He can make any throw. Any throw.
Oh, 1,000%.
Justin, what are your thoughts on Stafford?
My thoughts on Stafford are just exactly as Ashton said it. He is the type of guy you want to get at the back end of your drafts if you need that guy for the spot start. Maybe leave him on waivers and try and get him later. I do like the setup that he has with Adams and Puka just because their efficiency, like you said, in the red zone was so bad. And Adams was top 5 as far as getting into the red zone. Like he was getting targeted at an ungodly clip with Rodgers. And Stafford is going to see that and go, okay, well, I can get down to Puka and I can score with Adams. Let's do that. So I would not be surprised if he finishes like QB 12, QB 10 range. Yeah. He's definitely missing the running aspect that's going to get him beyond that. But, he's pretty much like Aaron Rodgers of years past or a Jared Goff where, this is probably the best year you can probably have him with the weapons he has. So he could definitely hit. I just looked at his stats. I'm surprised he hasn't hit 4,000. He could definitely hit 4,000 this year.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's never had 2 healthy top-tier wide receivers at the same time. In 21, he only had Kupp and Odell for like a few games, and then Odell gets hurt in the Super Bowl. In the last 2 years, he's only ever had Puka fully healthy. Kupp has been dealing with stuff. And if Adams and Puka can stay healthy, on the Rams, he's never had 2 healthy, competent wide receiver ones. And you can definitely see him go to town with those 2.
Oh, yeah. So for fantasy perspective, get him as your backup, and you just never know. You might end up with a nice little sweet surprise in your back pocket. Joe, let's go to the running backs for the Cardinals. James Conner last year finished 11th in his current ADP right now. They got him at 17th. We got Trey Benson back there as the backup. His ADP right now is 56. What are your thoughts on the Cardinals backfield? Think they'll exceed ADP?
The thing with Connor is you worry about durability, right? And though I think he's been more durable than people think, they have this idea about him as a guy who isn't durable. And I think you talked about it. He missed maybe 1 game last year towards the end, was quite durable, but he's getting up there in age, right? Now his running style is less about burning speed, although he was really good with long runs. He was like had one of the best rates of just long runs in the NFL, surprisingly. But he's such a solid runner, and I could see him kind of, overcoming that age thing more than most running backs. But the injury thing you have to watch out for. I think a lot of people are looking at Trey Benson, figuring he's going to be the guy who, kind of takes some carries from him. And he's kind of, I think, the handcuff. But, with James Conner, if he's healthy, I don't think we're going to see a lot of Trey Benson. I think they're going to ride James Conner until he's injured. I think because he's so important. And Justin talked about what a great pickup he is. He's so vital and underrated. I mean, people are talking about him a bit, but still, I think underrated for how effective. A PFF grade of 90.4, right? That's just remarkable, right? The 5th highest graded running back in the NFL. So I think if he's healthy, he's going to exceed that. But I think baked into his ADP is those concerns, right? That's what happens, right? When you're worried about durability and age, that is baked into those ADPs. So I think he will stay healthy, and I think he will exceed that. Trey Benson, to me, he might get a little bit of, kind of run in terms of, change of pace. But I don't, unless, James Conner gets injured, I just don't see Benson having enough run to be worth starting, right? He's a handcuff on your bench in case, right? So that's kind of my view on the running backs. And we just lost our commish.
Oh, I know. He'll be back in a second. But yeah, no, I actually really like that, and I think the key to his longevity has actually been the fact that he's never had over 300 touches in a season. So when you really look at it, he's been able to successfully get 1,000 yards these past 2 years. And I believe it was under 250 the previous year. And last year was about 283. He's durable as can be, but they haven't been putting a lot of miles on him. He gets to 200 carries, but 200 carries nowadays is nothing, especially if you've got somebody who is built differently. I mean, last year, he didn't miss much, and then the previous 3 seasons to that, he had missed 7 games in total, which is absolutely bananas for a running back. I talk about with guys like Josh Jacobs, the best ability is availability, right? If you can be on the field, you're definitely going to be winning somebody a fantasy championship. And then Trey Benson, I think, is a nice compliment, even though I didn't really like exactly what I saw out of him last year. I hope that, putting on a little bit of weight puts on a little bit more durability for him. He doesn't look like he's the guy that came out of, I think it was Florida State the previous year. He just did not look like the guy who was on tape. So I was a little disappointed with him last year, but maybe he'll impress this year.
His vision was just not great. His ball carrier vision just was his issue. Like he's got the speed, he's got the strength, but he just wasn't, capitalizing on those blocks and finding those lanes like you would like.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm sitting here talking, and all of a sudden I hear Joe say, "Hey, we lost the commission." I was like, "Wait, what just happened?" Apparently, I tripped the wire, so my bad. Good segue, Justin. I appreciate you. All right, Ashton, let's go to you on the backfield. You mentioned it earlier. I heard you say it earlier. Kind of perked my ears up. You mentioned you think that this is going to look like a what's the word? I can't even think of the word, but basically a shared backfield, if you will. So with Kyron Williams, I've always felt like he was the most disrespected player. Always, because they always are like, Kyron. Well, he finished 7th last season. Right now, ADP, they got him at 11th. You talked about Jarquez Hunter a little bit. They got him right now, ADP at 53rd. And I couldn't find Blake Corum anywhere. So what are your thoughts on this backfield?
Yeah, neither can Sean McVay.
McVay, if you have any struggle blocking, you will not get primary running back 1 reps. It's what basically drove Cam Akers out of town. So Kyron is a very divisive player because he's coming up on his contract year, especially with the fan base. There's a lot of arguing about how much he should or shouldn't get paid. And he's one of those difficult players to talk about because he's a good running back. He is underrated overall by a lot of fan bases. but he's not great. He doesn't have explosive runs. He's really good in the red zone. Like, you get him within 10 yards, he can find pay dirt pretty easily. But he has a fumbling issue too that has kind of come up more and more. And he had a fumble in the playoff game. He had 5 fumbles last season. So I really think if he stays healthy and doesn't fumble and can show slightly more explosiveness, he'll keep control of this backfield. But McVay isn't married to any single player. He will definitely move on like this if he ends up having any issues. So I think it's important to pay attention fantasy wise between who's playing in the preseason, between Corum and between Hunter. If one of those guys doesn't end up playing in the preseason, they got the RB2 job at that moment. And they're probably blocking better, I think, is the biggest thing between those two. I was a big Corum person coming out of the draft. I really liked him. I've never been a huge Kyron person. I still like Kyron, but I feel like Corum is slightly more explosive and gives you everything else that Kyron does. So I feel like you get in a situation, I wouldn't hold either as a handcuff personally until you get more information and you see a little bit more. But you're playing with fire. Kyron had a similar stat line to what Corum did in his first year with the Rams. And then he just took over, and everyone just instantly forgot that he was basically a waiver wire pickup with Puka that week.
I like it. I like it. Although, like I said, a lot of people always downplaying Kyron, and that man just loves to score touchdowns. Justin, what's your thoughts, though? Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I just want to say, Cardinals fans don't forget Kyron because he ran all over us. That's a painful memory. So that I got a twitch right here still from that. So,
Justin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's the outside zone blocking. It's the outside zone run scheme. Shanahan, McVay have like perfected it. And so they have this like God complex where it's around running backs. They think they can take any running back, put them in there, and then just run behind my lineman mismatches over here, and you'll get 1,000 yards. And it actually usually works. I will say this, Kyron has proven to be way more durable than I thought he was going to be. I mean, when he ran, I think it was like a freaking like 5.4 or something like that. No, it was inverse. It was like a 4.7 or something like that. And 40, he was like 180. Yeah. You're like, what the fuck, dude? You're like small as shit. How are you running that slow? I mean, there were linemen that were running faster than he was. I think a lot of people got thrown off by that. But the one thing that really put him out there was at Notre Dame, he was a tremendous blocker. So he got on the field because of that, like Ashton said, and he just stayed on the field. Like he is nothing special. He really isn't. But he is just good enough in that scheme, and he does just the right amount of good pass blocking mixed with knowing how to run between the tackles and knowing where to go in the zone, that he's going to stay on the field. Now, my issue is he had 300 carries last year, and I think he tacked on another 34 receptions. So he's starting to get some wear and tear on that little body. So this is the perfect situation where handcuff, go get yourself some Hunter because that dude's explosive, and, just ride it out because, like Kamish said, there's such a difference in ADP right now. You can get both those guys and be fine. Mm-hmm. And you'll have a part of one of the better run games in the game.
I will say with Hunter, if he comes out and he ends up playing in week 1 or week 2 and he's blocking good, but he's not getting the snap share, that's when I would definitely pick up Hunter because that tells you everything you need to know. And I think he would eventually take over for Kyron, especially if Kyron ends up fumbling any games and they lose because of it.
All right, mark that name down now. We're calling it out early. All right, Joe, let's go to you on this receiving core for the Cardinals, and we'll just throw in the tight end since we're running up against it. We've been chatting a little long. So we'll put tight ends and receivers together. Marvin Harrison, last season you mentioned, good season, 30th receiver overall fantasy wise. just wasn't the. I guess everyone was expecting his father to just kind of come in and catch passes from Peyton Manning or something. But right now, they do think the overall consensus is they think he's going to do a little bit better this season. Have him ranked 20th. And the other question I guess in here is who's that other guy going to be? Is it Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch? Who is that other guy? Please let us know. And then Trey McBride, I'll throw in there as well. Finished number 2 last season. Got him number 2 this season. So what are your thoughts on the receiving core?
So I love some of the players they have here from a real football standpoint, but from a fantasy perspective, like I talked about earlier, this is a run first offense, right? James Conner, Kyler Murray running the ball. There are only 2 pass catchers I'm going to draft in a fantasy league if I'm in the position to do that, and that's Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. Those are the only 2 I'm taking. I think Michael Wilson is a really great, smart receiver coming out of Stanford, had some injury issues. I think he's going to be a great player for them. He could have some nice weeks, but there's just not going to be, in my opinion, the kind of volume. They're not going to be a team that runs an offense like your Miami Dolphins, right? Where it's such a high octane pass first offense. That's not what they're building. They're building an offense that is more, not necessarily the same type of offense, but statistically more like what you see with the Ravens, right? A lot of running, a good tight end, and maybe you can afford to feed one receiver. And that's what you're looking at. Michael Wilson is a savvy route runner. He's smart. He's going to do some nice things to move the change for them. He had 548 receiving yards last year. Maybe he ups that a little bit, but 600, 700 receiving yards is not a guy you're drafting anywhere before the teens, right? If you're doing that at all in fantasy. So I will say with McBride, I think there's going to be some regression to the mean in a positive way on the touchdowns. He only had 2 touchdowns. That was kind of anomalous. So, but I could also see, and I said this last year and I was wrong about it. I thought Marvin Harrison would come in and take some of those yards and that we would see, an efficient Trey McBride who didn't have more yards, but then he ended up having more yards, 1,100 yards. I do think we could also see a regression in yards down a little bit, but touchdowns up, receiving yards down. And then Marvin Harrison is filling some of that space with his receiving yards. But I think Trey McBride is going to kind of be one of those end zone targets. So those are the 2 guys that are worth drafting, in my opinion, in terms of pass catchers.
So that's such a solid point. We always talk about touchdown regression. This could be the total opposite of that with Trey McBride. Totally great point that you made. Justin,
I'm going to nerd out for a second. I'm going to nerd out. I work as a sociologist, and I've taken statistics. Regression doesn't mean backwards. It means moving towards the center. Regression to the mean. Mean means it's a central tendency. So regression goes both ways. So if you have a low number, a regression could be getting you closer to the middle, right? So it's absolutely a regression.
I'm going to stop saying that word now. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
You can use the word. You just use it it just means moving towards the middle. It's all regressing to the
I just heard it so much when they talk about them going backwards. So that's
yeah. It's a movement towards the middle. That's all it is.
That's awesome. All right, Justin, what do you think of this Cardinals receiving core?
I think I need Marvin Harrison to stop playing like he's in college and thinking he's the most dominant player on the field. I said it at TSS like last year. The entire time I was just like, why is this guy getting bodied by Christian Gonzalez? Like, Christian Gonzalez is good, but guess what? Christian Gonzalez is not nearly as good as freaking Marvin Harrison could be. This is a dude. I hope he got packed on the muscle. I hope he packed on the confidence too, because this is a guy who should not be getting bodied by any cornerback in the league. Any quarterback in the league. I will say that one more time. Any quarterback in the league. And, as far as, Trey McBride goes, that is your red zone weapon. I don't care what you're talking about. Regression all the way. This guy needs to be regressing all the way to the mean. And you know what? Push it even a little bit further. Let's make some progression on that side. Let's get progress up to 11 touchdowns. I'm going to call that 11 touchdowns for Trey McBride. That's the only 2 I want. I like Michael Wilson as a character player. He's really good, but he's not going to get fed in this offense.
Just imagine the potential of a number 2 tight end catching, it was 2 touchdowns. last season. And imagine now that number 2 tight end getting 8 or 9 of those. I mean, that could be big potential for your fantasy team this season. So that's pretty exciting. All right, Ashton, let's hit it to you, my friend. Let's talk about this Rams receiving core. Okay, we know we got Puka. We know we got that. He was 26 last year, had some injuries going on. Current ADP got him at number 5 right now. Devonta Adams, Justin hit on it earlier. Freaking Aaron Rodgers was still feeding this guy. He ranked 11th last year. His current ADP is 21st. We got Tutu Atwell, we got the other guys obviously as well. And then the big question, I think, is the tight end position. I mean, is it Tyler Higbee? Is it Colby Parkinson? Is it just, man, if we are super desperate, we got to pick one of these just guys up one week? What are your thoughts on the receiving core of the Rams?
First off, let me talk about Puka because he is a dog. He is it. He makes. And I don't kid. He makes an insane catch every week that you're just like, there's no way he just caught that, and it's just nuts. And it's every week. He's the best receiver I've ever watched play with the Rams since I started watching. He's by far better than Cooper Kupp, more physical. His cuts have only been getting better in the last 2-3 years. And I think what he's able to learn from Devontae Adams is he's only going to get better. And he was only 26 or 21st because of his injury. If he would have played, he was on pace to be a top 10 wide receiver very easily. So, love Puka. He's a dog. Devontae Adams, I think, like you said, I think he's going where he'll probably end up. I think he's going to be a big red zone, big touchdown guy. He's awesome if you're looking for a flex wide receiver, someone to get you. I think he's going to be very consistent. I think he's going to be consistent 12, 13 points with a few spike weeks here and there whenever they decide to like triple Puka for no reason. And then just going back to Puka real quickly, if you have Puka, go for Jordan Whittington. Jordan Whittington as a Puka handcuff. He was starting for Puka when he was out at camp for the first few days. He is a dog. He's the guy who I wanted to get snaps over Kupp because he was more explosive. And the weeks he started, whenever we had a few injuries, he was a viable fantasy player. And I really think Jordan Whittington as a kind of like handcuff, fantastic player to kind of put on your roster as a taxi player. And then for tight ends, Higbee has been with the team since dawn of history. McVay loves him, but he's just not explosive. He's good. And just so you guys know, the Rams have had Higbee forever, and he's the best tight end in their history. That's how down bad they had been for tight ends. And McVay has been thirsting the last 3 or 4 years trying to trade into the first round. They tried to get Brock Bowers, and I wanted to trade 2 or 3. People call me crazy, but I was like, trade future first to get Bowers. I thought he was going to be generational, and man, he would have been dangerous on this offense. But they ended up getting the guy they wanted in this draft with Terrence Ferguson. I think he ends up taking over the job. He's a great tight end 3 for your rosters if you have that open third slot. And especially Dynasty. I don't know if I would go for him redraft because he'll probably get hot the last 5 or 6 games of the year. Potentially. It depends on how the wide receivers are doing and if they're staying healthy. But I really do like him Dynasty. I think he ends up taking the starting job from Higbee by the end of the year, and he's going to be a heck of a player if McVay likes him as much as he's been trying to get a tight end, and he really wants one because he was a tight end coach in Washington.
Listen, that's a good fantasy nugget regardless, because we're always looking for that desperate tight end fill-in towards the end of the season, and love to find those guys that hit that hot streak. So that's a great point. I'm writing that down. Justin, any thoughts on these receiving cores, sir?
I mean, I think Ashton hit it perfectly. The one thing I'll say is that while I like Ferguson, Tight end has just never been a featured part of this Rams offense, and I kind of wonder if that's going to ever change. I know Ferguson's talented, but I've seen quite a lot of talented tight ends get wasted because the offense just is not catered to them. And right now, the offense is catered to Puka and Adams, at least for the next 2 years. So, but otherwise, yeah, I think that was just absolutely flawless analysis.
Yeah, flawless for Joe and Ashton. Go ahead, Ashton. Go ahead.
I was just going to real quickly say, I think part of that has just been because they have lacked elite talent at the position. And that's why we just never utilize it. And McVay, I have my faults with him, but if I cannot, one thing I can't fault him for is he maximizes the potential and utility of elite players when he does get them. I mean, he made basically a borderline homeless Odell like into a viable fantasy option. Like people forgot he was dead fantasy wise until he went on the Rams and went on that tear. So
yeah, absolutely. Joe's over there saying like, I got Trey McBride for the next 4 years, so I don't know what you're talking about. All right, let's hear. We heard from the doc about those Cardinals. Let's hear them real quick about those Rams.
The Percent to Bench from the Injured List podcast. Brought to you by Fast Draft Fantasy and NeuroGuard Plus Mouthguards.
What up? What up? Kicking it off with Matthew Stafford at the quarterback position. Last season, late in the year, he dealt with some hip and back soreness, but despite this, playing through discomfort, he didn't miss any games. He's their QB1 with an upside and strong durability throughout his career. Sitting out the first 5 days of camp this season just for some recurring back soreness, but he's been practicing off to the side while Jimmy Garoppolo handles first-team reps. I don't see this as a big issue. 10% score to the bench for Matt Stafford. Moving right along, we got Kyren Williams at the running back position. End of last season, he had a grade 3 high ankle sprain. It actually was in week 6, which caused him to be placed on IR. He did return in week 12. He has a high upside when he's healthy. He's an RB1 in volume leagues, but foot and ankle durability issues do keep popping up with him throughout his career. Despite this, he's reported to be on schedule in camp amid contract talks. And there's no major injuries reported during the offseason. We're giving him a 15% score to the bench. And then our favorite wide receiver, Puka Nacua. Preseason last year, he dealt with some knee bursitis, had some late season foot soreness. Despite this, he didn't miss any games last year after coming off of a PCL sprain from the season before. He's an elite wide receiver option, again, when healthy. He's a massive target volume with mild durability flag issues. But Sean McVay and Nacua both indicate that he's moving smoothly and he's expected to be ready for week 1 with no setbacks this year. We'll have to see how that plays out, but I'm still giving him a 20% score to the bench. Back to you, Kamish. That's your 2025 Rams.
Thank you, Brian. Go check out that Injured List podcast indeed. All right, fellas. Well, we talked about what was. We talked about what is. Now it's time to kick this rivalry up a notch as we close out with the Fantasy Quiz Show.
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life.
It's the Fantasy Quiz Show.
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson. It's going to be a long game. Not going to be a long game tonight because we got Rams and Cardinals experts in the house. I explained the rules earlier. I'll just go over them one more time. I'm going to ask a question with the top 5 answers. On the first one, please shout out your answer as quick as possible. Then if you get one, you will get control of the round. You can try to close out, get all 5 answers. If you don't, you got 3 strikes against you. The other person gets a chance to steal. We got best out of 5. Let's get started. Ashton, I'm going to just let you know now. I can see you on mute, so don't be yelling your answer out and we can't hear you. All right, here we go. Top 5 answers on the board. Justin, let's do this thing. I'm looking again in all-time Rams and Cardinals history. I'm looking for the players that have thrown for the most passing yards.
Kurt Warner.
Roman
Warner.
Gabriel.
Kurt Warner is actually incorrect.
Wow.
Ashton said Roman Gabriel.
That is correct.
And I had to look at that. It's so funny you said that, Joe, because I looked. I had to look, and I was. Go ahead, Justin.
Are you sure about that one? Because Kurt Warner played for both motherfucking teams.
I know, but you said it the last show, and I looked today because I thought the same exact thing. And I looked, and it's because he played for both teams. He didn't stay long enough for one, so he didn't get up on either list. But he's very close. I believe it was on the Rams list. All right, Ashton, you got control with Roman Gabriel. Pulled that one out. What else you got?
We'll see. So, do I ask the question next?
Yeah, you answer it. Yes. So what other options do you think are up on the list?
I guess the rushing leader. I don't know.
No. You guess the top 5 players between the Rams.
Next. Okay. So, and this is for throwing.
Roman Gabriel was not, just to give you a hint, well, not a hint, but Roman Gabriel was number 5 on this list, 22,223 yards, if I could spit that out.
Okay. And Kurt Warner wouldn't be either. See, I guess Kurt Warner. I'll just steal his answer.
Get him again, Kurt Warner. No, not on the list. All right, Ashley, got 1 strike against you with 4 answers still left on this list.
Okay. Gosh. This is why I'm terrible at trivia. I'm trying to think of the guy who came after Kurt Warner for the Rams. He stayed for like 4 or 5 years, but I don't know if he would have thrown for enough. I'll pass it, Joe. I'll give him a chance.
Oh, that's very generous.
That's not how it works, Ashley. You got to guess, and then you get 3 wrong. Yeah, so that's strike 2. You get 1 more guess.
I don't think I'll pass to Joe was the name of a quarterback for the Rams. I could be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Ashley got 2 strikes. 1 more guess. Just throw a name out there.
Jim Everett.
Jim Everett. Look at that. Jim Everett, number 2 on this list, 23,758 yards. All right, so you got only 1 strike left, but you got number 1, number 3, and number 4 still left on the list.
Oh my gosh, you're asking me about people who are like triple my age.
Hey, watched it.
Hey, yo,
because it definitely wasn't someone in the 2010s. They weren't throwing for much back then. Damn. I'm trying to think of that guy's name, and it just terrible with names. Yeah, I guess I'll try Kurt Warner again and hope it's more right.
That there's 2 Kurt Warners.
Give it to him, Justin.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Indeed, not Kurt Warner. It's not Kurt Warner. Okay. Yeah, Joe, all you got to do is get one on one of these guys. That's all you got to get.
Neil Lomax?
Neil Lomax. Great job, Joe. Neil Lomax. And that was the one that I know I felt a little offended when Ash was talking, because I remember Neil Lomax. He was number 4 on the list, 22,771. The guy you were trying to think of so hard, Ashton, earlier was Mark Bulger. He's number 3 on this list, 22,800.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I couldn't think of Bulger's name.
And the funny thing is, you guys missed the number 1 answer on this list. It was, bring this back to you. It was blah, blah, blah. It was Jim Hart, who played for the Cardinals, 34,369 yards.
I wouldn't have gotten that.
Yeah, I was like, who? Okay, so no big deal there. Good job, Joe. You got that first round. Let's go to question number 2. Again, all-time history and just Cardinals and Rams. I'm looking for the top 5 players who have rushed for the most yards.
Steven Jackson.
Steven Jackson.
That is correct.
Whoa, Nelly, he was number one on this list, 10,138 yards. Impressive indeed. Ashton, you got control again. What other answers you got?
Marshall Faulk.
Marshall Faulk. Also on this list at number 4, 6,959 yards. All right, Ashton, no strikes. 3 answers left.
Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley.
Did he get 5? He didn't get 5.
He was close. I went and looked for that one because I'm like, Todd Gurley. Yeah, he was close. But all right, so 1 strike, 3 answers left.
It's probably a few of the guys from the 80s and 90s. And then we got him. I don't think it would be Kyron. He hasn't played long enough. So it's definitely not. Dang, I thought Gurley was going to be it. I was hoping Gurley would be it. Marshall Faulk.
A lot of talking, no answers.
Hey, I'm terrible at Cardinals history past like before 2016. So I have no clue who ended up playing for the Cardinals historically that had a lot of rushing yards. Yeah, I'm kind of out of answers there. Todd Gurley was kind of like my.
Give him the 3 strikes, Jesse. He's lost.
I don't know that I'm going to do much better. The Cardinals don't have a lot of great.
We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked.
All right, Joe, you got a chance. There's a little meat on this bone with 3 answers there. What do you got? Can you steal?
Cardinals, it's tough because they're such an old team, right? There's guys that are just from before I was born. And there's not a lot of great running backs in my era, but I'm going to go I'm actually going to go James Conner. I mean, I know that's recent, but
James Conner.
Hello, you play to win the game.
Indeed you do. And I'm just going to let you know right now, I'm going to take your Rams fan card and put it in my pocket because how the hell could you not remember Eric Dickerson at number 3? At least that one, 7,245. The other guys on this list, the other guy on this list was number 2, Otis Anderson, 7,999 yards. And the last one, Lawrence McCutcheon. 6,186. All right, we got a tie ball game here. Let's go to round number 3. And again, all-time Rams and Cardinals history. I'm looking for the top 5 players who have had the most receiving yards.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald.
That is correct.
Well, he nailed that one early. 17,492. He is number 1 on this list, Mr. Fitzgerald. Joe, you have control. What else you got?
All right. Let's take an Anquan Bolden.
Anquan Bolden?
Yeah. I know he wasn't. Oh, dang it. Okay.
Didn't make the top 5.
Roy Green.
Roy Green.
That is correct.
Ooh, number 5 on this list, 8,496. Okay, what else you got, Joe?
Oh man. This is tough because I'm sure some of those guys are old players I don't know. I mean, man, now I'm feeling like Ashton. Like I'm running out of good guesses. This I know is not right, but if it were for reception, it might be Larry Centers.
Larry Centers?
Yeah.
All right, that's 2 strikes. Don't forget, it's both Rams and Cardinals history. So
Rams and I can pick Rams.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Torrey Holt.
Torrey Holt.
That is correct.
Number
That's
3
four.
on the list,
Four,
12,660.
Isaac Bruce.
Isaac Bruce.
That is correct.
Number 2 on this list, 14,109. All right, so you got 1 strike remaining and 1 answer remaining. So can you get it?
Let's see. My brain is going back to Tecmo Bowl. Man. Well, let's it's recent. But Cooper Cup.
Cooper Cup.
Cannot play with him. Cannot win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it.
All right. I mean, that was a good guess, though. But what do you think, Ashton? You only got 1 answer you can get right on here. He's number 4 on this list.
Elroy Hirsch, Crazy Legs Hirsch. I don't know if he was
Elroy
up there in
Hirsch.
yards.
It's really unfair. It's my team.
Indeed. It was in the Rams family. It was Henry Ellard. Played
That's
for
what I was
the
trying to
Rams.
think of.
9,761. All right, Joe is up 2-1. We're going into round 4. Let's see if Ashton can push us to the crucial game 5. But let's go and see if Joe can close it out. Last question here, looking for all-time Rams and Cardinals history. I'm looking for the players who have scored the most touchdowns.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald.
That is correct.
Numero uno on the list, 121 touchdowns. What a great career for Mr. Fitzgerald. Okay, Joe, what else you got?
Marshall Faulk.
Marshall Faulk. Number 2 on the list with 85. All right, what else you got?
Let's go Steven Jackson.
Steven Jackson.
Okay.
Not close, but he did not make this list.
Torrey Holt.
Torrey Holt. That is correct. He's number 4 with 74. All right, you only have 1 strike you've gotten, and you're missing number 3 and number 5.
Isaac Bruce.
Isaac Bruce. Correct. He is the number 3rd player on this list with 84. All right, all you're missing is the last guy, number 5 on the list.
I'm going to try Henry Ellard.
Henry Ellard. Okay, that's 2 strikes. 1 chance to close it out.
Eric Dickerson.
Eric Dickerson.
We gave him the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked.
Man, Ashton, this is basically the equivalent of a 55-yard field goal to tie it to go in overtime. Can you kick it in? Do you know the answer? Number 5, most touchdowns all time.
Man, Dickerson was a great guess. Number 5. First name comes to mind is Todd Gurley. He did score a lot of touchdowns. I don't know if it's enough to be 5th overall between both. I don't think it's Cup either.
Well, somebody's
I'll guess Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley. He kicks it, scores in. You can't believe it. He nails Todd Gurley. I was about to say, man, you said it earlier. He is number 5 with 70 on this list. Okay, now we've only had this happen once, so we're at the tiebreaker question. There is not a top 5 here, so it's whoever basically yells out the answer first. So here we go for the tiebreaker and the win. I'm looking for who owns the all-time series record between the Rams and the Cardinals.
Rams.
Rams.
You know, I bet you enjoyed making me have to say that.
Not at all, actually. Not at all. I didn't know who was going to yell that out first. All right, the Rams do own the series 51-41-2. But man, what a great game. I mean, we came down to the buzzer on this one. That was a great one tonight. Congratulations, Joe. You are tonight's winner. And Ashton, I hate to break it to you, but on this show, we do a little something special for the loser of our game. Justin, hit him up.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
Dumbass. Thank these. They call me dumbass. Play kind, stupid.
Good game overall. Can't believe it. Like I said, down to the buzzer. We haven't had it like that before. So that was actually really kind of fun and exciting. So good stuff, guys. All right, before we close things out tonight, Joe, do us a favor. Let everyone know where they follow, subscribe, and get all your great content, my friend.
Yeah, find me on Twitter at JoeCamo13. I have a YouTube channel called The Cardinal Rule. We're kind of not doing as much right now, but we're hoping to get some things going during the season. So those are the two places to follow me.
Go follow Joe. Get all his great content. We appreciate you doing that and appreciate Joe coming on tonight. Ashton, how about you, my friend? Where can we follow, subscribe, and get all your great content?
Yeah, you can follow me at RampantAshton1 on either Threads or Twitter. And our podcast, East Coast Rams, is on all your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. And thank you guys for inviting me on. It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you had fun. Ashton, I appreciate you. Go follow, subscribe, and get all his great content. Justin, thank you, my friend, as always. Appreciate you hitting the back scene as the judge. That's great stuff. Don't forget, stick and stay here. We're going to be on Friday night covering the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks as this summer tour starts to ravel up as football begins. Don't forget football on Thursday. Hope everyone enjoys. Good luck, of course, to the Cardinals and the Rams this season. We appreciate all of you for joining us, and we are out.